Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours.
Like, it was a disaster. And then all of a sudden, Bert just kind of like falls off the stage, and we're like, oh shit, like, I don't know, maybe he's drunk, I don't know. And he came up, and you just see like bone and blood gushing. And it takes you a second to realize what the hell you're looking at.
Today's guest is MEGG. MEGG, spelled in all caps and with 2 G's, blends her love for pop music with her punk rock roots to create a fearless sound for the tomboys, loudmouths, romantics, and the misfits in between. Born and raised in LA's South Bay, MEGG has opened for bands like The Used, headlined at the iconic Saint Rocke Music Venue, and sang the national anthem at Dodger Stadium. You can catch her this summer playing Van's Warped Tour in Long Beach, California, which takes place on July 26th and 27th. MEGG's new song, The End, is out now. MEGG, welcome to Seeing Them Live.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is very exciting for us. And we're also joined today by my co-host and producer, Doug Florzak. And we'd like to give a shout out to Mike at Earshot Media for setting up this interview. Yeah, we've been chatting a little bit, going back and forth with emails and stuff. So there's a lot to talk about here today. I thought we'd start with your first concert, as we usually do, and then bounce between some of the bands you started. We'll sprinkle some concerts in as we go. So I have, and I don't know if this date's right, a Madonna show. Was that 2003?
It might have been before. It's hard to say because my dad was there and he passed in 2003, but he passed at the end of the year. So maybe it was before. I mean, the timing sounds about right. It must have been 2001, 2002, or 2003, because I was definitely at the older side of elementary, but the younger side of middle school for sure.
Okay. Then I was trying to do the math later to figure out all these other things. So I wasn't sure on that exact date, but your mom and dad took you to the show, right? And a friend of yours?
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of impression did that make on you? I mean, that's like a killer first concert, I would imagine. Madonna.
Oh my God. Yes. It was crazy to go because at that point in my life, I think when Spice World came out for the Spice Girls, I want to say in like 1999 or maybe 2000, I would come home from school and watch Spice World every single day. And I would do the moves and I would sing. And it was just like every single day. And so getting to go to a real concert venue, I think it was at the Staples Center actually. And getting to see that in real life, I mean, my eyes were just like, it was crazy. The costumes, the people, there was so much magic there. We ended up leaving early, unfortunately. So I'll give you a little backstory.
Okay.
My dad was from North Dakota and my mom's from Indiana. They met in Arizona. Anyway, she was like this big liberal. My dad, this big conservative. And they never, back then it was just kind of like, oh, who cares? But my mom worked in fashion. So she was around like all the fabulousness and the gay community, and she just loved it. And my dad worked in pharmaceuticals. So he was like very like business oriented, whatever. And we have 4 boys. I'm the only girl. So we get there and my mom and I are like skipping along with my friend, and Madonna, all of her fans had these zebra cowboy hats that just said, I love cock. My dad was like, oh my God. And my mom was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like me and my friends are like, those sparkles and everyone's oiled up and everyone's like full makeup and hair. It was like the coolest thing. But my dad, after like halfway through, she kept like saying the F word and like flipping off and like saying like all these like really outrageous, amazing Madonna things. And it was just like, my dad was just like, he just couldn't. He's like, I feel like we should not have our like 10-year-old daughter and her friend here. And my mom was like, come on. And he was like, no, I've sat through half of this. Like, we're done. So we put them going over. Amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, at least you get to see some of it. Yeah, I took my daughter, we went to see Harry Styles a couple summers ago. Yeah, there was a lot of costumes and it was just a sea of people watching was like unbelievable. It was really cool. So I imagine it might have been something like that.
Oh, yeah. It was cool. It's just because, I grew up in a beach town. So it's like just surfers and skaters, which is like, what I'm used to. And so getting to be like in downtown LA like that
Yeah.
and see all this creativity and beauty and magic, like the sets and the costumes and, the way Madonna just tackles the stage. And you can't look anywhere else, no matter how hard the other dancers are working. They call her the queen of pop for a reason. It's crazy. But yeah, it was pretty sick. It was pretty sick.
Cool. Then you listed several best concerts. And I didn't know that this one that you mentioned, this trio with Beyonce, Alicia Keys, and Missy Elliot, was that shortly thereafter that concert or was that later?
It must have been.
'Cause I have it in like 2004.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Because I remember I was young too, 2004, because I was singing and I was singing an Alicia Keys song to get into the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts. It was my audition song. And so I remember like getting to go see it, and I auditioned in 2005. So yeah, I think you have the timing right on the money for that.
Okay. Yeah, you put that down as one of your best shows. I have to think that was something else with those three people performing on the same night and where they've gone since. Crazy.
It was. I remember too, Missy Elliot opened the night and then Alicia Keys happened. And a lot of Alicia Keys' stuff was just this amazing grand piano in the center. And I feel like, I mean, God, this was so long ago, but I think she Alicia transformed her stage into like a circle of sorts, and she just kind of like arose. I remember feeling like she was higher than the rest of the stage. And then Beyonce came out. At one moment, they all three like hopped on the stage and did a song together. And that was wild. Because you're right. Think about that now. That would never happen.
No.
Crazy thing to see. Also, I forgot all about this, Charles. Like most of these shows I forgot about until you started asking these questions.
When you're filling out the form, you're like, oh, wait a minute. No, this one. Oh, no. Oh, now I'm thinking of this one.
Yes. Yes.
It happens a lot when people start writing this stuff down. They're like, "Oh, wait a minute. No. What about this concert?" So that must have been really a cool evening. But you'd mentioned you were practicing for an audition to get into a performing arts high school?
Yes. I went to LOXA, which is the Los Angeles County High School for the Arts.
Okay.
It's a public school, but it's audition only. And so there's like 4 departments. It's kind of like the movie Fame. So there's like the visual department, music department, which is split into vocal and instrumental, theater department, and then the dance department. There's like 100 kids in each department. I think it was like a graduating class of like 370 or 400. And so I was auditioning to be in the vocal major.
Okay. Were you accepted into that program?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, because then later, we could talk about this a little bit later. You went on to get into this University of Southern California popular music performance program.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I did a little research on that and I'm like, holy cow. You just said you went there, but that's a pretty major big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seemed like it from there, the acceptance rates that they published online was like 9.2% for the university, but it's even less for this program.
It was, yeah, that was, I didn't even, yeah, at that point, and we could dive into it later, but I thought I was doing musical theater. That was like my trajectory. And an old teacher had told me about this new program. And I was just like, sure, like I'll audition for it. I love the idea of being close to home. But yeah, that was crazy. That was the most fun 4 years of my life.
So getting back to high school then, I guess,
Mhm.
you and your friends started a band. Is that correct? Like in '06?
Yeah.
One Way MMC?
So this is a fun story, actually. My mom had a clothing manufacturing company at the time, and she had just started getting into, they did like JC Penney, Mervyn's, Macy's, Sears, like stuff like that. Basically, my mom's goal was to make designer clothing for the average woman. So she would make these beautiful dresses that anywhere else would be hundreds of dollars, but she would make them affordable. And so she started getting hit up by like celebrity managers to do personal clothing lines. And as she was working with these different artists, obviously I was songwriting and doing my own stuff at the time. She had an idea of doing like a Spice Girls thing, but with clothing lines. So each girl would have their own line of clothing depending on their style. So we started as 5, and then that ended up getting knocked to 3 pretty quickly. And it was me, this girl Chelsea, this girl Melody. And so like I was like the rocker girl, Chelsea was like the urban cool girl, and then Melody was the like beautiful Latina mariachi vibe. And we made the line, and Wet Seal loved it. So it was manufactured in over 200 Wet Seal stores across the country, which now I'm learning is like a huge deal. So that was really cool. And we got to work with Scary Spice and Randy Jackson and the producer that did JoJo's lead Get Out. And it was all really fun and really cool. But then it just kind of became pretty clear that it wasn't really the trajectory that the 3 of us wanted. I wanted to go to college, and I grew up listening to, punk rock, and I wanted to kind of get into more of a rock vein. Melody wanted to get into the Christian world, Christian music world. And Chelsea is like a huge star. She's like on all these acting shows, and she was just like, I think I'm going to like push the acting career. So we ended up splitting up. But my mom is such a visionary. She is such a visionary. It was a great idea. Like, I think if someone were to take that idea now, it would be a smash, but it just wasn't the right fit for us.
Because you guys released an EP, is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. And what was that like? I mean, you guys went to a studio or something and
Yeah.
recorded an album, and it was all tied in with this clothing effort as well?
Yeah. It was cool because her dad, I don't know the right word, started like, one of the biggest mariachi bands or groups, So he had some connects to get us in front of some producers and some people. So that's how we were able to, meet up with these crazy producers that now I look back, I'm like, I make all my music in my best friend's like bedroom. But I'm like, here I am 16 in like Alex Cantrell's studio singing like, these like pop tracks. But it was cool, dude. Like, we didn't write them, which was wild to kind of sing someone else's songs, but I love harmony, so it's fun to do 3-part harmony, and, like, even though I'm not very good at dancing, it was really fun to dance, and I kinda got to live out my, like, 8-year-old Britney Spears, Spice Girls dream,
Yeah.
quickly to find out that it wasn't for me, but it was really fun to do that and be in these big rooms and have these meetings. And there was like one picture of us with Mel B, Scary Spice, who was my favorite Spice Girl growing up. So there was a lot of crazy, we got to perform at the Orange County Fair, which at the time was like this huge deal. All of our friends came and our little shirts that we made. And, my mom had this great idea for the tags on the lines to be our face. So like, I think my color was red, Chelsea's was blue, and Melody's was pink. And so you would walk into any Wet Seal store in the country, and there would be the Runway MMC corner. It was just cool. It was cool.
That's a lot of vision. I mean, there's a lot going on there, you
Well,
know? That's really a lot of aspects to kinda pull all together. That's really cool. So after the end of that band, you formed another or you were in another band, like, in 2010? Party for One?
So 2010 is when I started Meg, the artist,
Okay.
and then put out an EP for the first time with this producer guy who was really into the vibes. Made that, and then me and my best friends that I was playing music with at USC, then we started a band in 2012 called Party for One. That was like a Blink-182 meets No Doubt, just pop punk party, drinking on stage. Like, it was such a blast. Playing all the college parties at the college bars, and then after we graduated, we played at like every bar in the South. I think we were playing like 3 or 4 times a week. It was just fun.
Yeah, because I was watching, I guess it's like a mini documentary of you headlining at the Saint Rocke Club, which you talked about, and there's a couple full circle moments maybe we'll talk about here that you describe as full circle, where when you formed Meg, and you'd mentioned that Party for One band in that mini documentary video, where you're at this club opening for, I forget the name of the band.
Tomorrow's Bad Seeds.
Yeah, just talk about that, because then it, like, turns into a whole kind of full circle thing for you as a performer.
Yeah. Again, I grew up in the South Bay and punk scene, like Pennywise used to play next door at my neighbor's house in the backyard. Just like it was always a dream of mine. Number one, to play Saint Rocke. But Tomorrow's Bad Seeds was like one of my favorite bands in high school. They did the like Sublime thing where it was like equal parts reggae, equal parts punk, equal parts rock. And I ended up meeting Moy, who's the singer of Tomorrow's Bad Seeds. He saw Party for One was playing around the South Bay all the time, all the dive bars, all the whatever. And we started kind of gaining some traction. And he was like, "You guys are sick. Like, we're headlining Saint Rocke. Do you guys want to open?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, this is great. Like, yes, yes, we want to open." And we opened for them. It was a sold out show. That was just very hard to put into words. I think I was like 22 years old and it was just maybe 23. So it was crazy. And then I played a couple other sets at Saint Rocke. Again, Moy would bring me on stage, not the band, but he would bring me on to like we would do Saw Red by Sublime and Gwen Stefani all the time. And then 10 years later, he asked me to play again. So the Wednesday before Thanksgiving in the South Bay is called Blackout Wednesday. Everyone's home for the holidays. And so everyone's out at the bars and it's like high school reunions and it's just a messy night. And then everyone goes to Thanksgiving and eats their face off the next day. And so Tomorrow's Bad Seeds usually almost always plays Saint Rocke that night. It's like a huge night. And 10 years to the date, he asked me back. So that was kind of my reintroduction to Saint Rocke, again, another sold out night. And after that, the people at Saint Rocke were like, "Have you ever thought about headlining here?" And so I was like, "All right, let's give it a shot." 4 months later, 5 months later, I ended up headlining there for the first time. And it really did kind of feel like Moy kind of helped pull me up. He really helped push me up in the scene a lot. And so because of those two shows, then the Saint Rocke trusted me to then do my own headlining thing. So it felt full circle in a very cool way.
Yeah, that's cool video and story. I recommend people to check it out. Then, I don't know, maybe backtrack a little bit, Meg, like another full circle moment, or at least maybe in my head, you were mentioning some of your best concerts again were Taking Back Sunday at Warped Tour. And I had that at 2012. And in some videos or interviews I heard with you, you would go to these Warp Tours with your friends who were also part of Meg, the band, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So, yeah, and I watched the video where, the guy tells you you're going to be
Yeah.
the Warp Tour 2025. And I listened to this interview, these guys, it was just a short snippet, maybe 6 minutes or so, where he, and I can't remember, but he talked about how, like, your being part of that show, that lineup in 2025 at the Warp Tour could be somebody's best concert or most surprised concert, which you yourself said, yeah, I never thought of it that way. So you guys would go to these Warp Tours, right? And this Taking Back Sunday was also where you got this fat lip you had mentioned. So you want to talk about this show in particular and then how eventually you're going to be playing the Warp Tour this summer.
Yes. Thank you for calling out these dates because I feel like Warped Tour at this point, they all seem like one summer. I can't even remember or distinguish them apart. But yeah, my buddies and I would go to Warped Tour and they played in my band in college. They play in my band now. And we learned really quick. So the thing, Kevin Lyman is the founder, obviously. And the thing that he does to really promote seeing all the bands is he doesn't release a lineup thing. It's not like on this stage today. It's just like you come and if you miss the band you came to see, like should have been here when we opened. And I remember we were on our way and we were running late. I think we got there at like noon or like 12:30 and we missed Sum 41, which was like one of the top bands we wanted to see that day. And so after that, we're like, all right, we're never going to be late to Warped Tour ever again. And he's doing that again for the comeback tour, which I thought was really sick. But yeah, seeing Take It Back Sunday, I've been in plenty of pit, but I've somehow managed to avoid any blood on the face. But Taking Back Sunday was so much fun. And I got my first fat lip and it felt like definitely a rite of passage. A bit of like a stamp where I was like, oh, I made it. I got my first, fat lip at Warped Tour. And that was definitely one of the best shows I've seen. Every Time I Die at Warped Tour was also one of the best shows I've seen. Actually, my best friend Rob Nagelhout, who produces all of my songs and co-writes blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He found a video of the Warped Tour Every Time I Die set. And you could see him and I were like 3 people from the stage were like in the little like circle pit, and he like zoomed in and got a picture, and he's, "See you and I from that thing."
Wow.
And then come to find out they broke up a couple of years later. So glad I got to see them. That they've been such an incredible, I mean, God, just such a staple in my life. That was also one of the best sets I've seen. Then continue to go to Warped Tour. Obviously, always dreamed of being on that stage. Like, what artist or band doesn't want to play Warped Tour? It's like the festival of all festivals, on top of the fact that it's like a community for like the weirdos and the misfits. And it's one of those things that's like, yeah, this style of music is cool now, but like it wasn't cool when I was, 15 or 16. It wasn't even cool when I was 20. I remember at our school, at our music school, like there were all these other bands that got so many other opportunities than Party for One. And not because they were better, but because we were a pop punk band. And to like the music world, that was like, whatever. Oh, yeah, they play pop punk. Like we missed out on a lot of opportunities because nobody would take us seriously. And now pop punk is like ruling the nation in such a huge way. So like I think that's part of the honor that I feel is like, I don't know. It's crazy. This shit could bring me to tears because it's like, it just like once Warped Tour stopped happening, I was like, all right, that's a dream that will never happen. I'll play other festivals. It'll be fine. But when I heard it was coming back, I was just like, I'm going to be on this bill. I wrote it on my mirror in my bathroom as soon as there was rumor that it was coming back. I was like, Meg at Warped Tour 2025. Like, no fucking way am I not getting on the bill. And yeah, I did everything in my power to get in touch with Kevin. And it took a really long time and a lot of embarrassments and no's and silence. But I finally got in touch with him. And when I had the opportunity, I shot my shot in a really chill way. And I think he came to one of my shows. I don't know. We never talked about it. But then I got the email in December and just sobbed and screamed simultaneously, throwing up for hours. And then called the boys, and like that was a crazy, like even making that video with Esteban, that Warped Tour announcement video. I grew up watching these Warped Tour announcement videos on YouTube, and we went back and revisited them, and social media has come such a long way. It's hilarious. These like long form announcements back when we had attention spans. You're sitting watching this band do nothing for like 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, really.
It was so fun. It was so fun to make that video. And I wrote that song pretty much when I got the call. I came up with the storyline, whatever. And then I just recorded in my phone, like, "Am I dreaming? Thinking I'm gonna die, blah, blah, blah." And then I called Rob, sent him the voice note, and he put all the production to it. And then I flew back home and got my best friends together and we shot it. And my other best friends were like the robbers in the video. And then it just got really chaotic with a lot of champagne at the end. And I still can't believe it's happening. I feel like it's one of those things that like I'm gonna faint when I get on the stage. Like I don't even know, man. It's a lot and it's very cool.
Yeah, that's huge. I heard you talking too about like some people try to game getting picked or with votes or something or buying votes or something. How does that work with the bands?
I think you're thinking of the Battle of the Bands.
Okay, maybe that was it. Yeah.
You have an opportunity, like if once they announce the lineup, you could do like Battle of the Bands in your city.
Okay.
Because I've been seeing a lot of that around. I think that that's happening again for this year.
I watched the video of you, the announcement that you're going to be on Warp Tour. And then I started listening to the music for this interview. And then I thought, man, it's about time. How could they not have Meg on Warp Tour?
Think
You guys sound great. And the range and emotion in your voice, gosh, but like on your EP, Misunderstood,
mm,
that song, I mean, that's such a catchy tune. That's so cool.
it's a deep song.
Then on that same EP is that song Change. And like you could literally hear you like crying in your voice. So the range of your voice and then just the different styles of music is so cool.
Thank you so much for saying that. Honestly, like, wow, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And the latest song, The End, that's like Warp Tour all over that, right?
Very excited to play that.
That's a cool tune. And you've been releasing a lot of individual songs, I guess, right, Meg?
Yeah.
So is the idea then to eventually combine them maybe to an EP or an album? Or you just like to leave them individual like that?
I'm so impulsive with music that I don't know. I have no idea. Last year, so at the end of 2023, I just had been working on so much music. I like too much shit. Like I enjoy too many genres that are so different. It's always been really tricky for me to like hone in on one. And then I kind of spiral in the whole realm of like, who am I? What am I? What is my sound? What do I have to say? And it's been really hindering in that way. So I was like, dude, I don't even have like a different word to say other than the F word. I was literally searching my brain. I was like, what can I say? I was like, forget it, man. I'm gonna just release a song every 6 weeks and just let it like literally who cares? Like don't be precious with it, just put it out. So last year, every 6 weeks, I would write a song, Rob would put his magic on it, and then I would just let it go and then work on the next. And it was a really great exercise for me in learning that like forget pinholing myself into a specific genre, that I don't have to do that. I don't think artists have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I just wrote what was on my brain, wrote what I was going through, wrote what was inspiring me at the time, put them all out with really no plan of what to do after. And it was incredibly freeing and so much work and stressful, but I think it's really helped guide my sound now to where I feel like now that all of those different versions of myself are out, when I'm playing them live, it's very clear which ones are very me and which ones I have maybe outgrown. So right now, the end was kind of the first song that was like, ooh, this feels like the new Meg, the new sonic path we're going. And I've been writing like crazy. And so the plan now is I'm going to put out an EP in the fall after Warped Tour.
Cool.
Drop another single probably in May, and then another one right before Warped Tours will be 3 singles. And then after Warped Tour, drop a pre-save and then put out the whole EP. And then if all goes according to plan, I would love to tour that EP for a couple months. And then next year, get my ass back in the studio and write for hopefully my first full-length album. That's kind of the plan.
I read things all the time, how people are productive. And that's interesting. You talk like every 6 weeks, I write a song and basically I ship it. It's done. I ship it. And there's a lot to be said to keep that cadence like that. I could imagine it's very stressful writing songs like that. But at the same time, they're done, they're out, on to the next one. And it seems to be working because I wrote down all the dates and yeah, you stick to a pretty strict schedule.
Oh man. I mean, I thought Rob was gonna kill me at one point because I was just like, 'cause there's so much that goes into it that I think people that don't do music don't understand. Like the writing of it, yes, but then it's the production and then it's the tracking everything all over again. And then it's making the artwork. It's like I do everything by myself in terms of that stuff. Obviously, like I would be nothing without Rob and my songwriting collaborators. But in terms of like artwork and stuff, I've worked with Mo McFadden and Madison Hedgecock. And I think those were the only two photographers. Oh, Taylor Lee. I'm just asking buddies to help me out and take pictures of me. And then I'm sitting on Canva for hours, ripping out my hair, trying to make it look cool and like pizzazzy. And then I like force my boyfriend to be in pretty much every cover art I can possibly force him to be in when he hates being on camera. So it's like, it's a lot of favors and you have to upload a distribution like 4 weeks prior to the release date. And then you have to prepare like 50 pieces of content on top of that, which just means more favors and more editing on top of having a job. Like it's nuts. I had extreme burnout. Isn't the whole bit? Extreme burnout. But yeah, you're right. There is something to be said for that cadence. And I am very proud of last year and how I really forced myself to just be a woman of my word and just make it happen.
Seems to have paid off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have other best concerts of yours. I kind of laughed at the Fleetwood Mac reunion.
Mm.
It was funny because when I went to research that, those guys are always breaking up and getting back together. One person will leave, and then 2 years later, they come back, and then they tour, and then some other person leaves. And it's like this long list of reunion concerts. So I had no clue which one you had seen because they've been doing this basically for the last, like 40 years, breaking up and getting back together. But you put that as one of your best concerts, Fleetwood Mac reunion show.
Yeah, God, even as we're talking about this now, I'm like, there's so many other ones that come to mind. But that one was just, it's Fleetwood Mac. That was incredible. I think it was the first time they had reunited in LA. Like maybe they went on a tour, I don't know, since the breakup or something. I feel like it was like in 10 years. It was really emotional because I remember the band, it was like very clearly emotionally charged and intense. Like you could feel it. And I think that was the cool bit of it.
Okay.
Also, again, just seeing a band that my parents kind of raised me on as well. So it was like equal parts exciting because I knew that it meant a lot to my mom. And also, Rumors is like one of the greatest albums of all time. So, like, that was really cool to see live. I think it was like one of the first times I had seen a classic rock. I don't even know if that's what they would consider themselves, but a classic band of that stature, like that. And just to see the musicality and the way that each instrument really has its own space. There's no playing over each other. There's no lines that collide. There's no wall of noise. It's like perfectly mixed and perfectly written. Like you can hear every single instrument and differentiate each part. And as a rock and roll girl that's, slamming around in the pit, it's just sound and scream, which I love. But to get to go and watch a band like Fleetwood Mac so intentionally with these long intros, I don't know. And they had just redone the Forum at the time. That was an incredible night. That was so cool.
Hi, this is Doug, producer of Seeing Them Live. We're going to take a short break from this episode to hear from some of our friends.
Hey everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike
With the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, coming to you from the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois.
where once a week we are interviewing local musicians and singer-songwriters, and the podcast itself covers a wide range of topics, including, but not limited to, the history of rock and roll in Chicago, the current state of the scene, and the challenges and opportunities facing musicians today.
So join us every Tuesday for a new exciting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Hi, I'm Jessica Ann Katina. I've always loved music and surround myself with it every day. I've sung in choirs, took digital musical classes in college, and used to work in radio. To further share my knowledge and experience with others, I created this podcast, Music Notes with Jess, in 2019. I'm so fortunate of the listener growth and hearing back from some of the celebs I discussed in past episodes. That's why now I'm ready to expand. So let's have fun taking weekly music notes of throwbacks, modern hits, and media. Thank you. Talk to you soon on Music Notes with Jess.
What was the last really great rock and roll book you read? How about a good rock and roll documentary? Well, that's why I started the Rock Talk Studio podcast, the place to go for recommendations of new rock and roll books and documentaries. Give me 20 minutes and the Rock Talk Studio podcast will get you caught up on the world of rock and roll books and docs from every possible angle and leave you with a no-doubt decision on where to spend your time and money. Want to know what to read next or which film to add to your watch list? Well, here comes all the top recommendations and hidden gems you don't want to miss. I'm your host, Big Rick. Join me for an exclusive look into what's hitting the shelves and the screens and get ready to rock your reading and viewing list. The Rock Talk Studio podcast, your ultimate guide to discovering the best new rock and roll books and documentaries.
Hi, this is Jamie James on Seeing Them Live. We all have our first concert stories, so please share them. We'd love to hear yours.
Now, back to the show. Maybe now would be a good time to hear one of Meg's songs.
All right.
All right, me and my friend Cooper Carr are going to play an acoustic version of a song I wrote with AJ Peacocks called The Hangover Song. Messed up in the head, drink too much again, feeling like a useless nothing. Called you late at night, looking for a fight. Will I ever learn my lesson? One shot turns to two, then three. Take one more cheap shot at me. Early morning, kick me in the teeth. Wake up, anxiety. It feels like everybody's mad at me. Worst part is I'm gonna do it all again. Tell me what I said. Did I make a mess? Sorry in advance, can't help it. I have trouble saying no, don't know when it's time to go. I should probably be alone. One shot turns to two, then three. Take one more cheap shot at me. Early morning, kick me in the teeth. Wake up, anxiety. It feels like everybody's mad at me. Worst part is I'm gonna do it all again. Yeah, I'm gonna do it all again. Yeah, I'm gonna do it all again. Well, it feels like everybody's mad at me. Worst part is I'm gonna do it all again. Thank you, Cooper.
Wow, that's such a catchy tune. That's so cool.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You had a couple of concerts that were your most surprising. One of which you were like part of the concert. You were the opening act, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the Used. And there's footage of this, and I kind of closed my eyes at the end because I didn't want to see if they showed what happened to the lead singer, Burt McCracken. But you want to talk about that, Meg?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was definitely the first huge show of my career. I was working with these managers at the time, and they were like, yeah, like we got you to play Musing Tattoo Festival opening for the Used, which at the time was my all-time favorite band. So that was just like a shit yourself type of like day. So we got to do it, whatever. I play my set and it starts pouring rain. Like people are slip and sliding everywhere. My friend actually we brought our family RV as like my tour bus.
Okay.
It was so trailer park and so on brand. It was amazing. And people were slipping walking out of the RV for with gear and stuff. It was a mess. We watched Hot Water Music next. And then it was the Used set after that. And everyone's pretty wet in the audience and it's slick in there. And so everyone's doing their best, but people are falling down the pit and picking them back up. It was a disaster. And then all of a sudden, Bert just kind of falls off the stage and we're like, oh shit. I don't know, maybe he's drunk. I don't know. And he came up and you just see bone and blood gushing. And it takes you a second to realize what the hell you're looking at.
Right.
We saw it as Bert is seeing it because, the adrenaline and whatever. I don't know if who knows what he was on or doing, but he fell and it was kind of just oh. And then he got back up and he's like, yeah. And as he did that, you could just see him see it and the band see it. And we were all just oh my God. And then he immediately was oh, I don't even remember. He said something and then just walked off. And we were just well, that was crazy.
So when he raised up his arms, basically his elbow was poking out of his skin.
Yes.
That kind of compound fracture stuff just cringes me out. That's why, when I saw him fall off the stage, you couldn't see what had happened, but I closed my eyes because it was just so disgusting.
Right?
So obviously the show was over, right? I would imagine.
I mean, I don't know, the adrenaline of that was crazy. But Charles, when you asked me that question, I had to re-Google it myself because I almost felt like I made it up. When you have a memory and you're like, did I make that up? Because again, I hadn't thought about that in 13, 14 years. And I watched video too and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, that Music, was that in Costa Mesa, California?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's organized by the Blink 182 drummer, Travis Barker, right?
Yeah.
And it's a multi-day festival combining tattoo art, music, and it's like kind of a car show too going on there.
I'm not quite sure about the car show bit, but basically it's like a tattoo convention. Have you ever been to one of those?
No, no.
Okay, so it's basically a big warehouse with a bunch of like, think about like a farmer's market or like, something like that. Everybody has a bunch of booths. You're not separated by anything. It's just like this banner, of this tattoo shop or this tattooer, this banner, and you go around and you look at people's work and you like go there wanting to look for someone that does lettering or looking for someone that does traditional or whatever. And then you can get really cool work done by a tattooer that maybe isn't in the area you're from. So basically, like Music was like a tattoo convention mixed with a music festival.
So how did you guys get that gig, or how did that kind of start out playing at that festival?
The managers we were working with at the time, I have no idea how they got me on that gig. Granted, this was like before Instagram and, before any of that. So it was just like, I couldn't really believe that we were on that gig.
That's cool. That must have been something else.
It was very cool.
Couple years later, it's kind of tied for most surprising. You had this 2013 Bonnaroo show where Mumford and Sons cancels
Yes.
and Jack Johnson is the replacement.
Yes, was the greatest day of my life. No shame on Mumford and Sons, but I just like don't care. And I remember they were all the rage at that time. I remember even one of my music professors at school was like, "Yeah, just get rid of the drum kit. Just have a kick like Mumford." And I just remember it was so annoying. Like everyone was so obsessed with them. I was just like, oh my God. And had the rise of like the fedora hat with like the boots and the skinny jeans and like the open button down. It was just obnoxious. And my girlfriend, me and her were roommates, and my best friend at the time, she was like obsessed with them. And then my band member, Hunter Porter, also a good friend of mine, and another buddy of ours went. And Hunter and I like didn't care about Mumford and Sons, but my friend did, and the other guy really did. And Hunter's also from the South Bay. And so we got the news about Mumford and Sons. We were like, cool. And Casey, my friend, and the other guy were pissed. Just the whole reason we flew out to Tennessee, like livid, like who's gonna replace them? Like who could possibly replace them? And they're like, surprise, Jack Johnson coming off a 4-year retirement to do like an acoustic set.
Oh my God.
And Hunter and I were like, yes. Like everyone laid down blankets, dude. It was so chill. He messed up probably every song. He was like, sorry guys, like I haven't played music. I've just been chilling in Hawaii, like living my best life. We rehearsed these songs for like an hour on the flight over here. Like it was so cool.
That's awesome. Well, Meg, let's see. I also had, just to throw in here, 2014, you were on the TV show The Voice, right?
Mhm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? You must have auditioned for it, right? Is that like an American Idol similar kind of process to get on that show?
Yes, it's very similar. So there's multiple auditions before you get to those chairs, to what you see on TV. So I had one of the producers reach out to me because they were looking to expand the rock audience for The Voice. And they're like, you've got the style we're looking for, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, sure. Like, can I do Led Zeppelin? And they were like, no. And I was like, can I do Nirvana? And they were like, no. So I wanted to do like all, can I do Guns N' Roses? They were like, no. So they chose Celebrity Skin, which I was like, okay, cool. Courtney Love, like love her. That's great. So that's later. There were a couple auditions first before that. And then when you make it to what they call the blinds, that's when they choose the song. You're sequestered in a hotel for like a month and you film a bunch of stuff. You film being the extra and extras in other people's videos, and you film your own segment. Your family comes and you interview with Carson Daly. And then for the other like 26 days, you're just kind of like lounging by the pool and working with your voice coach on the song. You do a run through with the live band a couple times. You go through wardrobe, hair and makeup, whatever. And then the day of, you're just standing backstage with the other contestants. And then you go on the stage and you do the thing. And it's crazy and terrifying. And then for me, just like that, I didn't get a chair. So just like that, it was done.
Oh, okay.
Packed my stuff and that was that.
Well, it was a good month. I don't know. Was it hectic or was it relaxing?
It was a little bit of both.
little bit of both.
Stuck in a hotel with a bunch of artists that you don't know, and everyone's like secretly competing. It was a lot. I mean, I grew up in musical theater, which it just felt like that, which there's amazing parts to it, but then there's the stress. But it was fine. They take your phones and stuff, so you just kind of like chill. But yeah, it was wild. I learned a lot about myself. Geez, I was such a different person then, but I learned a lot. That was a crazy experience. I don't even know how else to describe that.
Yeah, I know we're coming up on time, Meg. Is there anything you'd like to add or like where people can find you or want to plug? I know you talked about an EP or album coming out later or touring. Now, when you say tour, does that mean like around California and the Southwest, or would you make it out this way towards Chicago?
Gosh, I don't know what that looks like. I think definitely doing the West Coast again for sure. Maybe going through Arizona and Colorado. I think there's a couple spots in Florida that I've been asked to play, so we might go there. Definitely Nashville. I mean, Chicago would be so fun. Again, I have big ideas, girl. And then I bring it to my friends and again, lots of favors of like, how can I make this happen? So we'll see. I've never planned a tour before, but I would love to make that happen. I think the goal is to play more shows outside of California. So we'll see. If I come through Chicago, I'll definitely let you guys know for sure.
Yeah, that would be great. Doug, did you have anything you wanted to add for Meg before we wrap up?
Yeah, you said that early on you discovered that you wanted to have a career in music because you applied for that school that you talked about. And I was just wondering, what do you think was the triggering moment? Was it a specific concert that you saw, a specific artist that inspired you to the point where you said, yeah, this is what I want to do the rest of my life?
My parents said that I was like humming and singing before I started talking. And at any restaurant, if there was live music, I would be like 3 years old on stage with the band, just dancing around. And they knew pretty quickly that I was definitely destined to perform and entertain. And then when I was like 5 or 6, we found a community theater and I started doing musicals when I was like 6. So being on stage like right away, I pretty much knew. And then in terms of wanting to do the artist stuff, Britney Spears like really rocked my world. That was like really it for me. And then Spice Girls after that, and then Paramore and No Doubt after that. So I don't really think there was one thing that was the turning point. It's really just been something that has lived inside of me since I can remember. I've got like a karaoke machine, a shitty karaoke machine like, I don't know, when I was like 7 and I was singing I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston and It's Raining Men every night. So it was just like never a question for me in terms of what I wanted to do. But I think, yeah, going to the live shows, listening to Britney Spears, watching Spice World and watching these regular girls then be like superstars. I think that really solidified it for me in elementary school.
Nice. And I'm looking at a picture for the end. And is that little girl you with your bottle?
Such an attitude. Yes, that little shit is me.
You look very determined there.
Yeah, she's a determined lady.
Yeah, Meg, at the end of that documentary, you're singing a Spice Girls song, right? There's a little girl with a microphone and you fling off your robe or whatever it was you had on.
A leopard jacket. Yes,
Or, yeah, jacket. Yeah. So it goes way back, right?
it does. Yes. Feel very, very lucky and grateful that my parents were, because you can't, it's tricky to not have support. And the fact that my parents really fostered that passion at a young age it's not lost on me how rare that is. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you, Meg? I know I listen to all of your stuff, well, between YouTube and Bandcamp.
Yes.
You have a website where people can find you?
Yes. My website is www.meggmusic.com. And then everything is Meg Music. So Instagram at Meg Music, TikTok, Meg Music, YouTube, official Meg Music, SoundCloud, Meg Music, Bandcamp, all of that. We just released a music video for the end. So if you're interested in watching that, go to YouTube. We've got 2 shows in LA. I'm playing Breaking Sound on April 17th at Break Room 86. I haven't announced that yet, but that will be happening soon. And then also playing Redwood Bar in downtown LA on the 22nd. and then playing Warped Tour, the Long Beach dates, July 26 and 27. And then stay tuned for new music in May, hopefully. And otherwise, I think that's everything on me.
All right. Well, this has been really fun and interesting, and I've really enjoyed it and appreciate your time. And thanks again for coming on Seeing Them Live. And we'll stay tuned and see what's next for Meg.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Charles. This was so much fun, you guys. I appreciate it.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show